So for a long time, I thought the reason that I hesitated, I overgave, or I was too nice. Man, when I tell you I was too nice, just always believing in everyone, always, going so hard for everyone else, even, while they treated me horrible. Or I thought because when I went quiet in my creative life, that maybe that was just my personality. But it wasn't until I looked back that I realized it really stemmed from stuff that started earlier in my childhood. And as I'm older and I have more resources and, I've been exposed to other people's stories, it really opened my eyes to see, what really caused me to shrink as a creative woman. And, if you're a creative woman listening to this, there's something inside of you that wants to be expressed, but it feels like something is just blocking you from breaking through. Like you're very talented, you're beautiful, you're smart, but it's like there's just this blockage that you recognize is there, but then you don't recognize it's there, but you're kind of in a loop, I would say. And if that sounds familiar to you, this conversation is for you. Hello, my name is Shantae. I'm the founder of Creatives Unboxed. And we're going to talk about, where this pattern often begins. And real quick about Creatives Unboxed, our mission is to help creatives win where others quit, right? And you may be asking, well, why do you keep saying creatives? Like, why don't you just say help everybody? Well, this channel can help everybody. I believe you'll get a ton of wisdom from this channel, but I'm speaking specifically to creatives because, for one, I'm a creative myself and this has been my experience. But when I say creative, I'm not just talking about artists or entrepreneurs. I'm talking about people who carry something inside of them that can move, that can shape or impact the world. Like you have ideas, perspectives, insight, expression, right? Creativity is about, what wants to come through you, not just what you produce. And creativity is such a spiritual process because there is it's like this divine download that you get that comes to you internally. And then you're excited because you get it first, right? If it's a message, an idea, right? And you get it first, but it's the ability to take what was divinely given to you, internalize it, and then put it out into the world, right? I would like to say you're a conduit, right? And that is a very special role to have in this world because it's the creative that really moves this world forward, right? Think about, the things that you use in your life that has helped you to upgrade your life. That was created by a creative. That was an idea given to someone internally, and they had, I don't know if I want to call it faith, but they were able to move on that idea and bring it to life. And we're able to benefit as a society from that. That is divine, right? So if I had to really translate that, I would say a creative to me is someone who feels called, I'll use that, to translate something internal into something that can be felt externally, whether it's through art, leadership, storytelling, building, or service. And me as a creative, if you know me, I do music. I love music. I play the piano. I started playing the piano at 12 years old. I always knew I was super talented and super gifted. And especially when you start early and you play an instrument and you really learn your instrument, it opens you up to understand. Well, first of all, you develop discipline because it takes a lot of discipline, especially to keep up with piano and practice. But it also unlocks things in other areas. Like I was super smart, math. I had all A's in my math classes. Like it just trains your brain and rewires your brain to look at things more logically and creatively. And, playing the piano, it really is about self-expression. You're finding your own voice. Like you can play someone else's song, but you want to play it through your voice, right? And that's where my creative journey started with music. And the thing with that is, You know, as creatives, we face I don't want to say, I'm not trying to highlight us like we're just above people, but there are more obstacles I believe that creatives face, because there's this fight to keep you from really showing up in the world. I don't know what that force is, but and we all go through traumas. There's always just something to overcome, right? And and that's why I really wanted to really launch with Creatives Unboxed, because I was tired of seeing so many talented, so many brilliant, so many smart people fall off. And it has a lot to do with knowledge. It also has a lot to do with their environment, who they're around, how they grew up. And here's the thing. So, especially with creatives, we cannot control what other people have done to us. And I don't care who you are, we all have some level of trauma that we have dealt with, or we're still dealing with, right? And we're going to address those things progressively as, I post more videos. But sorry, I got distracted. But and here's the thing. No matter what people do to you, it's still your responsibility to pick up the pieces and heal. And I know it sounds unfair, like, oh, well, they did this to me, so I'm just going to continue to be angry. I'm going to continue to shrink, and I'm going to, take my anger out on myself. I'm going to eat myself to death. I'm going to, it's not like you're saying that directly to yourself, but that is kind of the reaction to what was done to you. But I'm here today to tell you that you have to pick yourself up out of the hole that others have dug for you. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you don't, you're choosing to stay, and please hear me when I say this, I'm saying this with love. You're choosing to stay in the loop, and you have to decide, what kind of life do you want to live going forward? Do you want peace? Do you want happiness? Do you really want to show up in who you are and use your gifts and your talents and show how brilliant you are? And I'm sure a lot of you are so funny and comedic, and you just have this side of your personality. And I'm not saying just share that with the world, but there's a side of you that, that comedic personality could be what brings you to millionaire status, right? You have certain traits about you that are hidden because it's buried under the trauma of childhood. And stay with me, because I'm progressing. We're going somewhere, right? And for this month, we're going to talk about the mother wound, right? So recently, Creatives Unboxed, we released a new resource called After Survival: The Mother Wound, Self-Leadership, and the Creative Woman Who No Longer Shrinks. I'm going to put the link in the description below. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. You can order it online through Barnes & Nobles, request it in your store. And what this book really wants to get to is just showing you, is bringing the awareness of how the mother wound really impacts how you show up in the world, right? Because, back then I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have TikTok, telling me, about, the mother wound and how, mothers are supposed to raise their daughters and all that. All I knew is what I knew. And all I could do was just react to the environment that was given to me. And not saying that's bad or not saying that's good. And as I go forward, let me just say this, I'm going to do a series on really opening up the mother wound and the creative woman. And it's not to bash our parents. It's not to bash my mom. It's just to really assess what has happened, because what is happening is it's just passed down from generation to generation to generation. And at some point it has to stop. At some point, someone has to heal enough and be progressively healing so the cycle can stop. And this is my thing. I believe like each generation should be getting better and better. Why? Because as a mother, you should be passing down your life experiences, your wisdom, your talents, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna use an example. So, and I think this is so beautiful. The Clark sisters is it's a gospel singing group, right? And their mother, the Clark sisters, their mother was one of like the greatest choir directors. And she passed her talent, everything she learned about choir directing and voicing and singing and harmonizing, she passed that down to her daughters. And they formed a group called the Clark sisters, right? And I love watching their family. And I'm not saying their family is perfect by any means, but it's just to drive home my point of how families are supposed to progress. And then the Clark sisters, they had kids, and they passed that talent down to their kids, right? And then the crazy thing is their kids passed the talent down to their kids, right? Karen Clark Sheard has a son who's a drummer, and her son had a son, and he passed down his skills of drumming to his son, and his son is at his level, and I don't even think he's out of high school yet, right? So that's how life should be. That's just my opinion. I feel like the generation should be growing and growing in wealth and talent and wisdom and knowledge, but we're still stuck in this emotional mess, and we're losing time, and we're losing opportunities, and we're losing great people to unnecessary trauma because no one wants to step up and heal and say, no, we're not going to go in this direction. Let me get the wisdom I need. Let me get more awareness of what I've been through, and let me have more self-awareness of where I am, because it's important for me to get in position so that if I have kids, they're not going through unnecessary trauma, right? Because that kid was brought into this world on assignment. And the less trauma and drama that kid can go through, the more they can excel in this world, because they're spending time in their gifts, in what they were created to do, instead of being entangled in trying to heal from, unnecessary traumas, right? But let me just keep going. So that's kind of what we talk about in the book, After Survival. And, it took me, like I said, it took me some time to recognize what was wrong with me. I always felt like I was behind. I always felt like I was like 10 years behind other women. Like I was very book smart. I played piano, like I said. I was very disciplined. School, give me any class, I'm going to be the top student, right? Give me any lesson, I'm going to learn it, right? But I always felt, as far as showing up in the world, I did not understand how to do that. And, like with other girls, it came so natural to them, right? And as I got older, I began to see what the root of that was, right? I for years, I thought about how much I hesitated, how much I overthought, how much I gave so much of myself to other people first. Like when I tell you, like, I would believe in other people's dreams, I would put my dreams down, and I would go hard for so many other people. I would just show up. Even in the church, I used the church as a way to try to get this kind of validation. And I would just overexert myself in the church. And it wasn't until I moved away from everybody, and I was able, when they say when the smoke clears, I was really able to see what the root of this was. And the root is the mother wound, right? And specifically, it was me growing up without emotional support as a creative from my mother, if I really put it there. And I'm not saying I'm blaming her for anything. I'm just saying, over the years, that your relationship with your mother is, you live with your mother for 18 years, right? So that's your first kind of social conditioning, right? And you see yourself kind of through the eyes of your mother. And especially me being super creative and not having a mother who knew how to manage that, as well as not getting the emotional attunement that I needed, right? And what is emotional attunement? It's the experience of having your inner world noticed, right? You're responded to. And, and it's made sense of, by someone, especially earlier on. So in a way that helps you to trust your own feelings instead of suppressing them. It's just giving attention to detail of your life and really seeing you as a person and wanting to know how you feel and what you're thinking, and preparing you for the world and really pouring into you. And you know my mother, I don't know what, I feel like I never really knew who my mom was. She never opened up to me. She never really explained anything about her life. Like, I really felt like I kind of raised myself, like she wasn't there. And this is no shade to my mother. This was just my experience. And it was to the point where, she would be very dismissive. At times, when I was just a giggly girl, happy, it was like my joy was killed. And, over time, as that continues to happen, like your mother's very dismissive with you, not really emotionally engaged with you. It was kind of like the vibe with my mom. It was kind of like, I'm just doing my time. And when you're out the house, hey, I did the bare minimum. I'm not going to invest in your talents. I'm not going to, so it was kind of that vibe. So I learned as a creative to lean into my talents for the emotional support that I needed, right? Music, that's why I love music so much, because I honestly do not know where my life would be without music, because it really anchored me emotionally when I didn't understand, when I felt neglected, when I felt like rejected. I could always go to my music, and music has just been a theme in my life. And I could always go to music, and I used that as therapy. And I didn't even understand what I was doing, right? When my mom didn't really show much interest in me, I would go to my piano and I would cry at my piano, and I would just be so happy when I became a better pianist and I could play. And the reason I'm sharing all this is because this might actually be some of your experiences as a creative. You were so talented, but your mother just didn't really acknowledge it, didn't even invest in it. I remember I used to say, this is when I was younger, guys. I used to say, I was like, man, I wish I had a mom like Beyonce. You know where I would be if I had a mom who invested in me like Beyonce's mom. And that's how I used to think back then, because I recognize what it takes to really excel as a creative woman. When you have a mother sewing into you, pushing you, validating you, you just show up so different in the world. I remember, and I still do this. Like, I can see a little girl, and I can tell what kind of parents she has by how she shows up. There are some like young girls, like I can see 6, 7, and 5-year-olds, the confidence that they have and how they speak and how they move and how they can interact, and they're witty and they're comical and they have all this personality. And you know why? It's because there is a mother and a father, but specifically there is a mother validating that child and letting that child know it's okay to show up in the world. It's okay to be funny. Like, you know what that would mean? Like, a lot of you probably were like, quote unquote, like funny kids growing up. Like, you had like a little personality. Do you know, imagine if you had a mother who laughed at your jokes and thought your jokes were like the funniest thing. Like, just imagine how you would show up in the world. Right? Because it's just so subtle validations. But when you don't get it, and like you're funny and you're met with dismissal, you're shunned away, you're told to shut up, you're too silly. Every time your personality tries to peak, it's shut down. What do you think that does over time? Right? And then when you get to adulthood, you're wondering why you're struggling to speak up in class, why you're struggling at work to really shine, when you know you're the smartest person there, and you downplay yourself. Like, you don't praise yourself enough. And that's not in a cocky way, but the praise is really praising the divine in you, right? And this is so important for creative women. Because why? Because I want to see, and I know creative women, I know, there's more that you can do. right? But it's this fear that has been that has accumulated over time, and it's because of the mother wound, right? Because let's talk about it. You hesitate to take up space. You're over preparing before sharing ideas. You feel like you need to earn permission, right? You create quietly, and you feel like, and this is where like religion and stuff. I have stories, and this video is more of an introductory video, but we think that by being just quiet and humble, that's the godly way to go, and that's how we're supposed to be. But no, you are supposed to shine, and we don't have that much time as we don't have as much time as we think. We don't know how long we're going to be here, so you need to be hitting your marks, baby. You need to be hitting your marks. But we have to address this mother wound. And and that's the crazy thing, is because I do consulting and I work with a lot of creatives, and this is the same pattern. I hear the same pattern, and I'm like, every time I talk to like certain women, it's like I just wait. Like as they're talking, I'm waiting. I'm like, oh, there it is. No support from your mother. Your mother was emotionally not there. Your mother allowed certain things to happen to you, and you're so busy really trying to get over that you're not able to really dive into who you really are. So this is the whole purpose, and we're going to focus on, I'm not going to go too much into it this video, but I just kind of want to just open your eyes and just introduce the mother wound as it relates to the creative. Because for one, you may be saying, well, what about fathers? It's a little bit different. So the thing is too, I didn't have my father in my life. I met my father one time when I was 8 years old, and then when I was in my 20s, I tried to reconnect with him, and it just didn't hit the same. I felt like I really didn't miss out on, I'm just being honest, I felt like I didn't really miss out on anything because he wasn't there. And this is no shade. Okay, here at Creatives Unboxed, we're going to talk. We're going to be real. I really thank God he was not in my life. I know that sounds funny. It's because I saw how his other kids turned out who actually lived with him, and they actually had a house. They had, my father was married, got married, and I saw how his kids turned out, and I was like, thank you, God. Like I run laps around his kids, and it's not to shame them or anything, but it's just to show how environments and influence really, it shows how far you can go, or it shows the limitations that are in that home, right? Because I'm like, I grew up in a single parent home. How am I running laps around y'all, and y'all had all these resources that society says you need to be successful in this world? And it's not to shame people or anything, but it's just to show that it's not too late for you guys. I know you may feel like so much time has gone by. You may feel like you're behind, but it's not too late to live the life of your dreams, to become who you are. I don't care what's going on in the world. It's all distractions. If you just lock in to work on yourself and deal with the things that we put off, or maybe you didn't even know this was an issue. And that's the thing. Like, once my eyes opened up, and the thing is, you have to kind of separate from those environments. And the more you separate, and I'm so thankful for TikTok, because over the years, I got to just hear people's stories, and I'm like, oh, I'm not alone. I was like, oh, that's what that's called. Like, it's crazy the revelation you get, like, once the smoke clears. But the thing about the mother is that the mother shapes your emotional safety. Your mother shapes your expression, your self-trust, right? And the thing about fathers are more towards, they're more like external validation, achievement, authority, how safe success feels. That's the father dynamic. So, that's the things that they shape. But baby, when it comes to that mother wound, that's a whole nother thing. So, because the first place we learn whether it's safe to express ourselves is in our relationship with our mother, right? And when emotional presence isn't consistent, silence can feel safer than expression. So it's just basically what needs to happen now is awareness. And I promise you, once the awareness comes, and then you start to let go, and your nervous system, baby, when your nervous system begins to heal, that is a beautiful process. And like I said earlier, we can't control what other people have done to us, but it is our responsibility to heal. And baby, like when I started, and we're going to talk more about that, when I started to heal my nervous system and the dreams I would have, and how my nervous system would purge things, and my nervous system and my dreams would bring up things that I forgot, and it would help me. It helped me release anger that I didn't know. Like I had some dreams, I was like, what is that dream about? And it was like my nervous system, I have to research this more. It's like your nervous system wants to get to a certain state of is it homeostasis? Is that the word? I don't know if that's the right word, but it's like your body is a well designed, I don't know if equipment. Like if you really look at everything in creation, it really mimics how the body runs in nature. But the body is such a genius design and how it works. And even with all the research and knowledge we have, I don't think we tapped into even 1% of what this body does. But baby, when your nervous system gets what it needs, it's like, oh, okay, we safe now. Okay, let me take it from here. And then you start getting all kind of revelations. You start randomly crying. You're just releasing. It is a beautiful process. And that's where that's what I want you to experience, because the more you experience that, the more you will show up in this world and be who you're called to be. Some of you downplay your looks, you downplay your brilliance. And in 2026, we're not doing that anymore. Right? And just to say this, we do not want the mother wound to block us in our adulthood anymore. And talent alone isn't enough, right? Because you can be talented. How many creatives have we seen are so talented, but they're taken out by their traumas. They're on medications. They're overusing medications. They're using other vices to try to not deal with, their childhood, if you really think about it. So awareness matters before trying to fix competence. It's the awareness. Once you're exposed and you're like, oh, and you start connecting, a whole new world opens up. And that's the thing. You can't out-discipline a pattern that was built around safety, right? A lot of the things you do is a trauma response, as they say, or, you built safety, right? A lot of, I've talked to some people. I had a friend, we're not friends anymore, but I had a friend, and, she would look nice, like she would, one minute she would like just really dress up and look good. And then I noticed like her appearance just drastically changed. And like she started wearing, little beanie hats and braiding her hair to the back. And I asked her, I was like, why is there a sudden change? Like, and her response was that she doesn't want any men looking at her. She didn't want any men looking at her. So she downplayed herself. And that moment was a trauma response. She had a flashback back to, some unfortunate things that happened to her with men in her childhood. And it came back. And then she just totally just shut down. So, and these things impact us. And that's not to downplay what she's been through. But it's just to show how these things keep, if we don't deal with it, it just comes back and it comes back and it comes back. And this is not to say that you read my book or you do a checklist and you're going to be healed immediately. It's the process, right? It's the awareness. So when the things do come up, you know how to handle that. So, if this resonates with you if this resonated with you at any point in this, you are not alone. And again, the book is going to be linked below. I'm going to be touching on things in the book. So After Survival is where I unpack this more fully, not just from my story, but from what I've seen again and again with creative women. So I'm going to focus on that this month. And let me just clarify too, Creatives Unboxed is not just for women. This is just what we're focusing on right now, right? So I believe men can learn from this as well. If you have daughters, maybe there's some men who have mother wounds. You might see some similarities. So let's just make 2026 just a remarkable year. And my hope is that this conversation helps you stop seeing your patterns as personal flaws and just start seeing them as learned responses. So again, thank you, and we will talk later.